Hi. So I wanted to continue what I started yesterday by doing another video on creating your own reality. And it's something that every human being has a birthright to do while they're here on Earth. But in order for us to do it, we actually have to do it. And part of deciding to do it is stopping and realizing that there is a prerequisite that you need to have to create a reality that is aligned with your true self. And I'm referring to like the true self that is underneath the societal and parental and family and friend programming that we all receive when we are children. And some of us are lucky enough to have difficult childhoods. And when we have a difficult childhood, we are put in a place where we understand that there is darkness within ourselves. And it is from this darkness that we can spring off and go into the light. And in order to do this, the prerequisite I was referring to is self-love. And if you ask somebody, oh, do you love yourself? Some people might say no, but the majority of people would say, yeah, of course I love myself. Like I thought my whole life, oh yeah, I love myself. I mean, I think I'm a good person, But what I realized is our society has been programmed for thousands of years now to have this deep separation from ourselves and to not love ourselves in the true sense of what that means. And this is all shifting right now. Some of you may be spiritual, some of you are not. If you are spiritual, you're probably aware of the fact that the earth is a living being. She's actually an angel body and has consciousness and is moving on her own journey of consciousness. And while we are attached and here on earth, we are part of her and she is a part of us. We are all the same energy. We all come from the same source. So we're specifically attached to this planet while we're here. And she is rising to a higher dimensional frequency. She's in the 4th dimensional frequency right now, and she's moving to a 5th dimensional frequency. And each soul that is here on earth has an opportunity to grow with her and move into a different dimensional frequency of consciousness, or to remain in the current one we are. And I'll just explain that the reason that I say that is because there are an infinite number of timelines of creation that each person can be having, and every decision you make and every thought that you have and everything that you do puts you on a pathway, a frequency, a pathway. And if you want to create a new reality, what you do is you change the way that you think, and you create yourself a jumping off point or a new path yourself. You create your own reality. You create another path. But it has to be done from a conscious place And again, the prerequisite has to be self-love. So you can continue on the same path you are on right now, and not you're always creating it every second, but you cannot create consciously, which means that you're just responding to your environment around you, or you can choose to create consciously. And when you create consciously, if you want to have a reality where you have inner peace and happiness and joy, you have to deal with what's inside of you. Because, as I mentioned, you are able to jump to a new timeline, but only if you think you deserve better. And again, this comes from an unconscious place. It doesn't come from a conscious place. Because again, if I asked you, oh, do you love yourself? You would say, oh yeah, I totally love myself. But then if we spent time together and I noticed you sometimes might do something where I would say, oh, like, are you sure you love yourself? Like, why would you do that? Why would you, stay in a relationship that isn't in your best interest? Why would you, like me, I stayed at a job for probably 15 years longer than I should have because I was scared, and that's what it comes down to. So if you say, oh, I love myself, but I'm too scared to do all these things, then there's a disconnect there between your ability to create what you really want. And so you have to have self-love, and you have to watch your behaviors on a regular basis to see if they are reflecting self-love. And the only way that you know that is that you have to stop and ask yourself and be able to be truthful with yourself too, because it's also easy to lie to yourself and believe your own lies. So it's this ability to face yourself and then basically face the pain of things that have happened to you in your life and decide that you are going to work through that pain and create a new reality. So I'm an astrologer. I've been an astrologer for a long time. I've had hundreds of clients. And the one thing that has been common to all of us, like every single human being I've ever worked with, is self-love. Because again, we are programmed to not have self-love here on earth, and that's changing. But one of the ways that it's going to change is that each of us becomes enlightened, that each of us decides to stop the madness of the 9 to 5, 5 days a week, working yourself to death for a structure, a corporate structure that is not kind, that is not gentle, that is not loving. And I'm not saying you need to go out and quit your job, but what I'm saying is you need to be able to have boundaries within that and create something for yourself that's meaningful. So what I realized, thanks to this amazing woman that I met, who taught me a technique. And the technique she taught me basically was to write out every day, if I could, So I obviously don't do that every day. But when I'm in a difficult period of my life, sometimes I not only write daily, I'll write like 4 or 5 times a day. And then sometimes I don't write, maybe like once a week. But I write down affirmations. And the 3 affirmations that I write down the most are, I love myself, and then versions of that. The universe loves me. I love people. People love me. I love my community. My community loves me. I love, and then I'll like list things. I love my body. I love my ability to do this. I am grateful. So those are one set of affirmations that I write out. And then I also write out affirmations regarding self-trust, because being able to trust yourself and being able to love yourself go hand in hand, as well as feeling safe. So I write out, I am safe. I am always safe. I feel safety. I create safety around me. I attract safety. Same thing with trust. I trust myself implicitly. The universe trusts me. I trust people. People trust me. So variations of those 3 themes on love, trust, and safety. I have probably written the words, I love myself, I am safe, and I trust myself, no joke, over maybe like 1,000, maybe more than 1,000 times now in the past 3 years. Because that is a way to heal and change your subconscious so that you can create a new reality for yourself. So your internal world shifts into a different state of vibrational frequency, and the universe slowly or quickly, depending upon how you have planned this incarnation to go, responds to your energy. So I wanted to get on today to talk about the power of writing out the same thing over and over again. And this is no different than athletes who visualize themselves winning all the time. This is the same mental technique that athletes use. And it's not new. It's been around since, any animal or with consciousness. So I guess just humans. When we're referring to the Earth, because there are other planets that have other beings on them with different levels of consciousness. We are not the only ones. We are not the only ones in this universe or in any other universe. But specifically for us, having this future version of ourselves where we trust ourselves, love ourselves, and feel safety is what will create that on the outside and bring in situations and people that match this new vibration that we have. And this technique of writing these affirmations over and over and over again it works. It's just logical. Like, how could you not change your mindset if you think the same thing over and over again? And then I also think these things when I start to get anxious. I've had anxiety. My first memory of anxiety was at 2 years old. And I also have like echoes up from it. I feel like from the womb. Like I can also feel like I have echoes. I just have this like memory of being in utero and having these echoes of it. And I don't blame my mom. For gosh sake, she was born during World War II in 1942, or my dad, he was also born in 1942 during a war. The amount of fear that my generation holds is directly related to the fact that if you lived in the United States or Germany or Japan or Europe, England, France, you have parents who were alive, born during the war. So when they were conceived, it was during a space and time that contained an extreme amount of fear. So even if the two people that conceived the baby had a lot of love for themselves, what was surrounding the situation was something that can't be ignored and sits in the DNA, and it sits in the ancestral line and is passed down through generations. So, and again, this has been propagated for thousands of years by the universe experiencing itself. The universe wants to experience itself as dark so that it can see the light. That's why it's happening. Like, that's why we're here. We're here to understand dark and light. We're here to understand duality. We're here to understand good and bad, which when you're not in a human body and you are just your true soul self, not attached to another entity like we are right now, you don't see things in a dualistic fashion. All just is. And there is no judgment, because Source itself has no judgment. Source itself is each of us looking to know itself through this experience. So, because of the darkness that exists here, we can use that to our advantage and be grateful that that's there, so that we can experience a new reality that we create. But again, like I talked about yesterday, there has to be this drive. If you don't have the drive and you don't put the work in, then you can't create it. The same time loop or the same pattern of karma continues as you repeat another, not repeat, but you have another concurrent incarnation. So we think of things linear, like I talked about yesterday, but in fact they're not. But our soul does move from body to body once we die and goes into another body. And maybe it's on this earth and maybe it's not. But if it is on this earth again, we have this opportunity to see things in duality. But we only think it's duality because that's what we think it is. We call things good and we call things bad. If we didn't call anything good and we didn't call anything bad, and we just accept everything for what it was, then it just would be. But then, how do you know the self? Like, the self has to have, that's the whole point of being here, this ability to see itself. And so in order for you to see yourself, you have to experience good and bad. And so if you want more good, if you want more peace in your life, then you need to put the work in to transmute the shadow self. And the shadow self is a term coined by Carl Jung when he mapped out the consciousness and the unconscious. And again, we are still learning about the consciousness and unconsciousness. So this map is just a guide. It may not be completely true, but he mapped out a part of ourselves called the shadow self that lives in the unconscious. And what that is parts of ourselves that we unconsciously pulled out of our day-to-day reality and put into our unconscious so that we would feel safe. And every human being does this, because no human being can be feeling safe as a child 24/7. There has to be things that we unconsciously put away as a child, because we're a child. The brain of a child is, from what I understand, in the theta state, especially a very small child. And so that's why we put parts of ourselves into the shadow self. And that's why those need to be retrieved. And those are retrieved through self-love. And so, again, I go back to this technique that I've used for 3 years, where I write these affirmations out. And these affirmations can be anything you want. These affirmations are how you create your own reality. I mean, if you wrote out, I want to be a spiritual healer, 10, 20, 30 times a day for 2 years, would you not become a spiritual healer? Of course you would. So it's available. This technique is available to you, and you can start using it to create your own reality. But the thing you have to understand is, as you're creating this new reality, the universe is going to help remove the shadow self from the unconscious and bring it into the consciousness in order for you to change your behavior. And as you begin to change your behavior, you are creating this new reality. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, you look back and you think, oh, I just heard myself say to myself, I love myself. Wow. I mean, that's crazy, right? Because a lot of people's internal dialogue isn't gentle and kind. So that is today's message, is to use the technique of writing out affirmations on a regular basis in order to change your reality. And I wish you all the best in that endeavor. Much love.